The Raspberry Pi is a great tool for prototyping devices for the Internet of Things. And that means that a thing, in this case a Raspberry Pi, is connected to the Internet. That gives us the Internet of Things. You already have a Raspberry Pi. Let's use the web service IFTTT, or if this, then that, to provide the Internet component for IoT. Hi, I'm Mark Ross, and welcome to this week's edition of Raspberry Pi Weekly. Every week, we explore the Raspberry Pi and share useful tips. IFTTT is based on the concept that when something happens, IFTTT sends a message to something else. In this session, I'll show you how to send information from a Raspberry Pi to the Internet. In a later session, I'll show you how to send information to a Raspberry Pi from the Internet. The first thing you'll need is an account at http://ifttt.com. It's not difficult to get this account, just follow the prompts. Now, you'll need to create a service used by the Raspberry Pi and then use that service in an applet. For details on IFTTT, take a look at Jess Stratton's Monday Productivity Pointers on IFTTT. First, we're going to create a service using webhooks. Search for webhooks and look under Services. Click on the webhooks icon and then click on Documentation. This is where you'll build the command that you send from the Raspberry Pi. Choose an event title. In this case, I'll title it MNR for Mark Niemann Ross. And then if you want to put in additional values, go ahead and type those in. We can type in sun, moon, and stars, or any value that you are going to use in your application. Leave this page open because you'll need some of this information later on when you're configuring the Raspberry Pi. Next, create an applet that uses the webhook service you just created. Go back to IFTTT, click on New Applet, click on this, and search for webhooks. Click on the icon, and then click on Web Request. We're going to call this web request MNR because that's the event name that we're using, and we're going to create the trigger. Now click on that. And we need an action, so we're going to use email as an action. We're going to send me an email when that action happens. So I'll create the action, and then click on Finish. Now, you're all done with creating the IFTTT applet, and we can turn to the Raspberry Pi. On the Raspberry Pi, open RPI to ifttt.py from the exercise files. We're going to copy and paste some values from the services page to this script. So first, go back to the IFTTT webpage, copy the key from the services page and paste it into the script on the Raspberry Pi. Paste that value into the My IFTTT key on line 4. Edit, paste. Now you'll want to get the name of the event from the services page. Switch back to IFTTT and look at the services page. The name of your event is between trigger and with. In this case, the name of the event is MNR. And that's the value that I put into the My Event variable. Save this, and then run the script. This will trigger an IFTTT event. To see the result of your event, go to your mail. In a minute, you'll receive an email with the values from the Python program. That's how you connect the Raspberry Pi to the Internet of Things. In a later episode, I'll show you how to do the opposite. Send a message from the Internet to the Raspberry Pi. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Raspberry Pi Weekly. Be sure to join the LinkedIn group and check out previous episodes on LinkedIn Learning. I'll see you next week with more Raspberry Pi adventures.